Hello, this is Marcus Washington from Making the Cut live here to talk about Crawford and Sean Porter tonight on ESPN Plus pay per view. Thought a live show would be a little bit better than a tape, as you know, this is in this corner episode 3. It's just a special live version of it where I'll talk a little bit about the fight and give my prediction at the end. So, this is a fight that certainly means a lot to Terrence Crawford. He's the one who has the light resume. He's the one who's been looking for the big fight. And, the idea that Top Rank has not been able to get a contract with some of the PBC fighters to get Terrence Crawford the opportunity that he's been seeking finally has come to somewhat of an end because PBC was able to strike a deal with Crawford Porter here, and hopefully that means that Top Rank and PBC can do some fights together, more fights together. I mean, they've done fights together, but more fights together. In the future of this magnitude, we do know that Terrence Crawford is going to be a free agent coming up soon. The percentages probably is that Terrence Crawford probably won't re-sign with Top Rank, and maybe if he does get under the PBC umbrella, some of the fights that Crawford has been wanting will be easier to make, and maybe those are when it's going to get made. We'll never forget, boxing is a business, and because it's a business, Crawford has been shut out some of the big fights that we've been waiting for, or fans been waiting for, or casual fans been waiting for. But it's a business; it's not a charity, so we understand that portion of it. But what I find interesting tonight with Sean Porter is that even though we talk about Crawford in the pound for pound best in the world conversations all the time, it's actually Sean Porter who has the more impressive resume, which you don't see all that often. Usually, kind of the guy who's the bigger name, and we can say that Crawford is the bigger name than Porter, even though Porter's not a slouch. Even though Crawford is the bigger name, Porter has the better resume, as he's fought Kell Brook, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, Dennis Ugas, Danny Garcia, Andre Berto, Adrian Broner. I mean, Sean Porter's resume speaks for itself, and he's been in the bigger fights. To be honest with you, he's been on this stage more than Terrence Crawford has been on this stage. Now, I know that's nothing to do with boxing. We heard De La Hoya before the Mayweather fight saying that Mayweather had never been on a big stage, and De La Hoya has, and Mayweather pretty much won that fight easily, and then the rest is history. But in this case, Porter having the bigger fights, I think he's a lot more prepared than what people think for this fight. Now, with Crawford does present quite a few problems, but definitely he's a challenge because he can win fights both ways. If he can stay on the outside and box, get in and out, and still win a fight. I mean, that's how Crawford is. That's how great he is. Or he can jump up in your chest and he can say, "Hey, I'm going to get you out of here before the 12 rounds." He can win that way too. I mean, his last 8 fights haven't gone the distance, and you can kind of go back and forth on what you think about the competition, blah blah blah. But that's not the point. The point is that Terrence Crawford can win both ways. He can stay on the outside, like I say, dip in and out, try to push Porter to certain parts of the ring and attack, strategically. Or again, like I say, he can go, and if it's Pitbull against Pitbull, he can also win a fight that way. For Sean Porter, we always hear about how he can box along with fighting the style that he fights. Be frank with you, his last few fights, he hasn't really had to box. Porter hasn't, and we know he is a pressure fighter. If there's a picture in the dictionary of a pressure fighter, Sean Porter's it. That's not to say that in stretches he hasn't sort of boxed. I think we saw some of that against Errol Spence a little bit. We saw some of it against Thurman and against Danny Garcia, where he showed spots in the fight where he can box and not just have that pitbull mentality. But this is what makes this fight so great. It makes it great because Terrence Crawford determines what this fight will be. And I'll tell you why I say that. Crawford is the one who has the pressure to make this fight some sort of all-time fight. He is definitely going to try to win in spectacular manner because he has been waiting so long for a fight of this magnitude. He's going to make the fight. And that's either going to play to his advantage or it's going to play to the advantage of Sean Porter. Porter doesn't have that pressure on it. Porter's not looking for style points. As much as Crawford might say that he's not looking for style points, he is. We all know he is. He's going to be a boxing free agent. This is him on a big stage that can set him up, especially if he leads top rank for a bevy of other boxers, especially under the PBC umbrella. So I think that tonight what we'll see out of Crawford is I think he'll try to take the fight. Sometime in that fight, he's going to try to take the fight to Sean Porter. And depending on the tenor of the fight, that could play right into Porter's hands. I mean, Porter could be waiting. Porter can afford to be patient earlier in the fight. And that's not to say to mail away rounds. Mailing away rounds rarely works for fighters. I mean, I know Floyd Mayweather, sort of near the end of his career, there are some fights where he probably gave away the first two couple rounds or two of the first 3 rounds, and that. But a lot of people can't fight that way. But I think what Porter will do is he'll be patient, see what sort of Crawford he's going to get, knowing that there's going to be time where Crawford's really going to want to engage because Crawford's going to want to win this game in a certain way, win this fight in a certain way, which you know what that brings us back to. That brings us back to Marvelous Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard. Had Hagler been satisfied just to win the fight, he would have beaten Sugar Ray Leonard easily. But he wanted to win it his way. And because he wanted to win it his way, he gave Leonard the opportunity to win. Now, we're not going to quibble. This is not the quibble over whether you think the decision was good, not good, whatever the case may be. What I'm saying is Marvin Hagler opened the door for Leonard because Marvin Hagler wanted to win a certain way. And you have to ask yourself with Terence Crawford tonight, does he want to win a certain way? And if he wants to win a certain way, does that open the door for Sean Porter the way Hagler opened the door for Sugar Ray Leonard? And that's where, where Porter and his corner can take advantage. If you ask me, this is no offense to anyone. I know it's debatable. We can debate it at some other time. Porter, to me, has the better corner than Crawford has. And again, that's not to criticize either one of the corners. I just think that Porter has the better corner. That's all. And if Terence Crawford gets hell-bent on wanting to win this fight a certain way, the same way that Marvin Hagler did when he was put on his biggest stage, because for all of what Hagler did, the biggest stage he was on was the Leonard fight. Hands down, even more than the Tommy Hearns fight. The biggest stage he was on was a Leonard fight. And he said, I'm going to win it my way. He ignored his corner and telling them what to do. He made the fight much harder than it had to be because he wanted to say, I went here, did it my way, outthought Sugar Ray Leonard. I have been waiting for years to fight Sugar Ray Leonard. He had pissed me off and avoided me for years, so I'm going to win it this way. If Crawford feels like, and I'm not saying that he thinks that Porter's avoided him for years, but the idea of being on a big stage of this magnitude has avoided him for years. And if he gets into that one-track mind that I have to win it my way, I'm telling you now, that plays to Sean Porter's advantage, hands down. So my outlook of the fight is very simple. I do think there will be one of those filling outs, maybe the first 2-3 rounds. I think it's going to be filling out like we see in a lot of big fights. I don't know how aggressive Porter's going to want to be at the very beginning. I think he'll try to take the action to Crawford a little bit here and there in those first 3, but it's going to be the middle rounds. And I do believe that in the middle rounds, Crawford will try to engage, and he's going to take chances, and he's going to get inside, and he's going to get in the middle of the ring, and he's going to face off against Porter and say, anything you throw, I can throw back harder. And I think that's going to end up playing in Sean Porter's into his advantage, and it's why I don't think, I know there's a debate on whether this thing is going to go 12 rounds. I've seen several experts, boxing guys that said they don't think this is going 12 rounds. If you look at how it's being bet in Vegas, is it looks like it's at least the bettors think it's going to go 12 rounds. I think the distance is something like minus 190 the last I checked. I'm sure that's been a while. The odds could have changed by then, so don't hold me to it. But I'm telling you now, for me, Marcus Washington's official MTC Media making the cut pick is Sean Porter wins this fight hands down. I think Sean Porter can win this fight by stoppage. I think Sean Porter can win this fight on the scorecards. Yes, I think he can get a decision in Vegas against Terence Crawford. I love Sean Porter's fight. It's the right time. in the right spot for him to beat Terrence Crawford. He will beat him because Crawford will make mistakes. Crawford will press the action. He's going to get caught by Porter. Porter's going to be able to back him up in the corner. And I do think the second half of the fight, especially those championship rounds, it is going to be hand-to-hand combat. They are going to be close. They are going to throw punches. Both guys are going to land punches. And you know what? In that sort of fight, I love Sean Porter. So my official pick is Porter gets the victory tonight. I am not going to say, it's by knockout because, again, or it's by stoppage. I'm not sure of that. But I do think when we talk about this fight in the morning, we're going to talk about how Sean Porter pulled off one of the biggest upsets in boxing in some time. Okay? This is, again, we wanted to get there before the undercards start, before the pay-per-view. The undercards already start before the pay-per-view portion of the undercards start at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Again, you see my Instagram account, my Twitter account is right down there, MTC with Mook. Tell me what you think about this fight. Jump on, tell me what you think about this fight. Jump on Twitter, tell me who you think is going to win. You can tell me that my prediction is completely off base. You can tell me that you agree. You can respectfully disagree. Don't get rude. But I'm interested in hearing how you guys think this fight's going to play out. I've seen a couple people have jumped on. I had already given my prediction. I'll give it to you again. I think Sean Porter upsets Terrence Crawford tonight because I think that ultimately Terrence Crawford will fight the wrong fight tonight. So I really do love Crawford in this. He is due to take one of these fights. Like I said earlier in the program, if you look at all the big fights that Porter's been in, he's the guy who has all the experience. Experience pays off for him tonight. Porter in the upset. Catch me on Twitter tonight. I'll be live tweeting throughout the fight. I'll be live tweeting through some of the undercards tonight right now. The only reason I'm not doing the super duper undercards is because college basketball and my coverage for college basketball kind of drew me away from the super duper undercards. But once the pay-per-view starts, I will be tweeting throughout the undercards all the way up to the main event and obviously the main event. So again, jump on the Twitter, jump on social media, come see me, come talk to me, come give me your prediction. We are looking forward to it. We are ending for boxing. We are ending this year in such a great way with Porter and Crawford tonight. So, hey, give me your predictions. You have mine. If you jumped on late and you didn't get the predictions, I'm not going to say it again because I've said it about 4 times now. Jump on my Twitter feed. You can replay this there. You'll get my prediction. And like I said, I want to hear your predictions. So jump on. Great to see you guys. For those who don't follow me regularly, I'll let you know. We do a lot of boxing. We do a lot of college basketball, college football, especially Notre Dame and NFL. We also do wagering picks if you're into the whole wagering thing. So you can catch up, especially tomorrow. You'll get my NFL picks in the morning. You can get them here. You can get them on social media, especially on Twitter. So you guys have a good night. I hope everyone here that has joined is ordering the pay-per-view tonight. We can't wait. I know I cannot wait for tonight's fight. You guys have a good night. And look, we will be doing a wrap-up show. I'm hoping to do a wrap-up show right after the fight. I'll be jumping back on, hopefully, depending on how late the fight ends. But we're going to sit around there and we're going to talk about it. And if I'm wrong, I will be more than happy to get back on here and say, hey, guys, I was off base. For guys who don't know me, if I'm wrong, I don't hide. I don't delete tweets. I don't do any of that stuff. I'll come on here and say, hey, look, man, I had this fight called completely wrong, and we can go over it. And you can say, hey, that was the worst prediction ever. That's all fine. See you later tonight. We'll see you on social media. We'll see you back here after the fight. This is Marcus Washington from MTC Media.